Welcome back to another episode of the Great Retro Header Build-Off here at Vibrant Performance's R&D Center. My main man Jay here just finished up the exhaust system. There's more to do though. We're going to jump up front and work on some cooling lines and some heat shields. As you can see, all the welds have been completed. I'm actually amazed how quick Jay knocked that out. Once it was on the bench, he welded this whole thing up in half an hour. So as you can see, we've got this nice bend up and over the rear axle. The rear axle is actually going to move forward a bit, so we'll have even better clearance to the panhard bar. I love how nice and tight the whole thing fits to the chassis. So it's got excellent ground clearance, but we've also got, enough wiggle room so that when I'm doing some sweet burnouts and lighting up the exhaust system, it's not rattling off anything. We've got our V-band connections, so we can drop the system off really easily, although I don't think we'll ever really need to do that. As you saw earlier, we've got our resonator, our flex joint, our Jezzy cat. Goes up top to that sexy header. Looks like we've had some retaliation here for our redecorating of Art's 2002. He actually showed so little creativity that he reused my messaging on my car. I'm sorry, Art, but you gotta do better than that. And frankly, using the nice weld arrow pointing at what is quite possibly the nicest weld in the world, it doesn't make sense to me. When I did it, it's because there was no weld there. Now you're saying nice weld, it's like a compliment. Thank you. That is a nice weld, Art. I appreciate you pointing that out. We're gonna throw the coil rad in now to see where all of our outlets are and figure out how to route the inlet outlets off the motor. They're all inlets and outlets. Anyway, this bolts up to the factory locations on the front opening here, so it's about as easy as a rad install as you're gonna find. All right, Jay, I'm just a pretty face here. It's time for you to do some thinking.
Again.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, so we're going to tackle heat shielding and we're going to tackle the routing of the coolant hose to the rad from the engine. We're going to go through a parts bin, browse through the Vibrant catalog, find some straights or elbows in 1.5" aluminum and silicone to route this together.
Yeah.
We've got our aluminum casting that's down here for the lower spout, and then we've made a water jet cutout for an upper coolant line.
Yeah.
This one here used to come out, actually I forget now how
it was a big bulky piece that kind of came out.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you remember?
So it was in the way of this, having a nice flowing header. So we're just gonna simplify this, have it come out maybe on an elbow, or even just put a spout right here and run maybe a silicone adapter. I'm not sure yet. And I'm just getting an idea where this first spout's gonna sit. We're going to run this up and curve it around, and we're going to also alter this end of the radiator to have a 90 on it first, and then put a piece of silicone here, and then join it with maybe a straight piece of silicone here, and then another bend.
Jay's just switching over to weld aluminum here, and I was curious what needs to be changed out for that.
So I use red for doing stainless and other metals that like stainless, or like 316, 347, Inconel, that sort of thing. I'll run a red. Sometimes I'll run a hybrid blue, tungsten.
Yeah, you said it right that time, yeah.
Okay. But if I'm going to aluminum, I'll switch over to a gold or a green tungsten. So green I usually fall back on because I have an abundance of it in the drawer. But I also switch to gold sometimes when I've got to do some fine aluminum work where you can sharpen the tungsten like you would on a stainless piece, or a stainless piece of tungsten.
Yeah.
And you can actually run that tip profile on the aluminum to get into really fine spots. And
okay.
It just allows you to run a finer bead on the aluminum tungsten when you're doing thinner work or really thin to thin metals. Now, I'm clamping it and screwing it to the table because I'm going to put a lot of heat into this flange.
Okay.
While welding it, so I don't want it to warp, so I'm going to clamp it down in 3 spots.
Very cool.
But I'll probably be running just over 130 amps to get this started, and then taper it back when I weld it to the tubing.
One more newbie question. Why are there multiple lines running into the torch here?
Yeah, we've got 3 lines running here. We've got like a cover to prevent any damage to them. But in here we've got gas, and then we've got cooled water, and then we've got hot water returning.
Oh, okay.
This is a cooled torch. It's a number 9 torch. It's water cooled.
Yeah.
So in the bottom of the Miller welder here, we've got like a radiator of sorts that's got a reservoir, and it circulates like a coolant.
Yeah.
And then it keeps your hand cool and comfortable. So you can literally sit there and weld all day long, and that really comes in handy when you're doing like a large intercooler that you got to finish.
Yes.
And it creates so much heat, and there's constantly so much heat traveling through here to keep that core heated. So having comfort in your hand is very important. So you can keep going. You don't have to take rest, and then because if you rest, then the item cools, and then you got to heat it back up again.
Right. Jay's doing some more metal forming, similar to the way you did the header. You're kind of just stretching the metal to fit the contour of the shape.
Yeah. We've got 3 areas here now that are kind of 4 areas. I pinched this side in after tacking it in 2 spots. Just came in and pinched it there, and now I'm just going into the corners and profiling this diameter into each corner that's part of the coolant flange. It's best to do it right after it welds because it's nice and warm, and everything forms.
Yeah, the aluminum seems really nice to work with.
To keep our silicone pieces on without blowing off under pressure, I'm just going to run a little bead on the end of this coolant spout. So just 2 turns after it's kind of snug. Give it a roll. Oh, backtrack a bit. You want to make sure you keep the edge flush. There we go. You want to have that edge flush to the edge of the bead roller so you get a nice line on there. That's it.
Now that Jay's got this piece done, we're just going to pull the rad so that he can replace this little spout with a 90. That'll bring us over into this area, and then we'll just have a little silicone piece to join them together in the middle, I think.
Yeah.
We'll be done. Apologies to Koyo Rad for modifying your stuff. This just is the cleanest way that we could think of routing the upper line, or the upper spout. And it is going to be a nice, predominantly hard line setup, which I think is pretty sweet, very custom.
Yeah, doing it this way keeps it nice and close to the rad itself, so we gain a little bit more engine bay space, I guess.
Yeah, it's true. We do have better clearance that way.
So, it should be good. And then we got the other piece coming down, and it wraps into the block, so it should be good. I'm going to put a bead roll on this too.
Okay.
And we'll have a silicone coupler right here, and then the rest of the tubing.
Beauty. That's a wrap on this episode of Aluminum Tube Fabrications. Next episode, we're going to finish up the water lines and install some heat shields, I think, right?
Yeah, we're going to get the lower water line in, and we're going to do a heat shield in between the header and the brake lines here. Just keep the brake lines from boiling so you don't hit a tree in the middle of the apex of the corner.
See, he's not just trying to build a cool header, he's trying to keep me alive.
Yeah.
I think we got a little bit of a head start on the Vibrant Performance guys on their 2002 in terms of the coolant system. We're already making custom pipes for a radiator. All I see is some random bits lying around over here.
Yeah, you guys are done, but it gave me the opportunity to start on my coolant system. So I pulled all my stuff out, and I'm going to use all our parts, and I, myself, the camera guy, are going to put together a coolant system for this car.
Let's see how well that works out, everybody. The engine bay in that 2002 is tight, but I do wonder, how are they gonna weld all that up in there, PT? That's a tight
gonna be.
fit.
I think they're gonna have to break it
They're gonna
down
be
and
breaking it down to weld it up.
exactly, and then
That
put
sounds
it all back together.
Oh man.